Spend the day with us as I follow Amber around with the camera and I document how she takes this mountain of produce, perfectly preserves it, cans it, and makes it not only delicious, but shelf stable for years to come. Welcome back to the farm, friends. This is one of those days where the kitchen takes over everything. We've got a pile of produce that has to be handled and it's not going to wait. Tomatoes are first up because if you've ever dealt with ripe tomatoes, you know they've got a short window. If you move too slowly, they'll turn to mush right on your countertops, and we are not going to have that today. We start by coring each one. We'll quick little twist with the knife. You get that stem and the hard center right out of there, and then we score the bottoms with an X. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just enough to help the skins loosen while they roast. And we're going to lay them on sheet pans, no oil, no salt, just tomatoes skin side up. They'll roast for about 50 minutes, and while they do, you can smell it. That warm, savory scent fills the kitchen. It's the smell of summer being preserved. Now, roasting does something special to tomatoes. It intensifies the sweetness, it drives off moisture, and it gives the sauce a richer, deeper flavor without you having to babysit a pot on the stove for hours at a time. Now, once they're soft and the skins have blistered and started to pull back, we pull them out and we let them cool down just enough to handle. Now, this next part, peeling the skins, it takes a little bit of time, but trust me, it's worth it. They slip right off, and it's oddly satisfying. You'll kind of slip into a rhythm as you do it. And once you remove the skins, you're going to have a much smoother sauce. Now, this next part is really fun. We transfer the tomatoes into our pot and we bring in my favorite tool in the kitchen, the immersion blender. Now, this tool's a game changer. You don't have to transfer anything to another container. You just blend it smooth right there in the pot. In seconds, you've got a rich base ready for seasoning. And this is usually my favorite part of the process. This process is going to take about a minute, give or take. And the goal here is to create a smooth sauce. Now, the truth is, we could stop right now and it would be good. It would even be good enough. Or we can push forward and we can add some seasonings and we can do a few little things along the way to turn this into the best homemade sauce of your life. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to bring this sauce to life. Now, if you've ever made homemade tomato sauce, you probably know right off the bat that they have the tendency to be a little bit tart. They could have a sourness to them. And the reasoning behind that is that tomatoes are naturally acidic. So when it comes to seasoning your tomato sauce, the very first thing that we do is we grab sugar. You're going to notice that we put 2 heaping tablespoons of sugar directly into the sauce. It's not so much that you're going to actually taste sweetness. What you're really trying to do is mute the acid flavor that's going to naturally come in through the tomatoes. Then we're going to add salt. We're going to add basil. We're going to add some thyme. We're also going to add pepper. Now here, you'll notice that the pepper is not black. That's because we're using white pepper. Now, we found that in our tomato sauce, white pepper seems to give us a little better flavor than black pepper. Now, it could just be us. It's up to you. By all means, you do what you want to do. This is how we do it. Here, we're adding just a little bit more garlic, and Amber's going to be stirring in some more thyme and some more basil. This sauce is going to be absolutely perfect. Now, once all of that is stirred in, here's the secret. Let it cook. This is why you slow down. You cannot rush a tomato sauce. Once you've got it peeled, once you've got it blended, once you've got it seasoned, the only thing left to do is to let the heat do its job. This is why you slow down. You let the sauce cook down naturally. You want to turn your burner down to a simmer, and here's a few things that you want to be looking for. You want to see steam rising up on the sides. You want to see little bubbles forming in your sauce as it cooks, and you want to see that bright red color of the tomatoes. You want to see it deepen to a brick red. The thing is, you're not just cooking tomatoes. What you're actually doing here is you're building flavor. I usually let it go until it coats the back of a spoon. But remember, don't be in a hurry. Now, in this process, we're actually going to be canning up our tomato sauce. So once it's ready, we ladle it into clean jars. Now take notes. This sauce is hot. If we put hot sauce in cold jars, we run the risk of our jars breaking. So always remember, hot sauce goes into hot jars. We're going to leave about 1/2 inch of head space. Once that's done, we need to clean everything because tomato sauce gets on everything, even if you try to be clean. So you want to take a clean rag or a clean paper towel, get a little bit of white vinegar, get that rag wet, and then you're going to use that vinegar to clean the lids on all of your jars. That's going to remove any residue, any sticky, anything that could keep the lid from actually sealing on your jar. This is what pantry building looks like. This is simple food. We make it one jar at a time. We know every ingredient that is going into it. Now these jars are going to be able to sit on our shelf for upwards of 2, 3, maybe even 4 years. But trust me, they won't last that long. Come November, December, January, and February, in the dead of winter, we can crack open one of these jars and it's almost like you're in the middle of July eating a fresh tomato. If you've never canned food, by all means, you should make your own tomato sauce. Now, next up, let's make some relish. I don't know what your cucumber harvest looks like, but ours has been spectacular. These are the big guys that got away from us in the garden. And so they may be a little bit bitter. They may not be the best ones to eat, but they still have value. They're too seedy for pickles, but they are not too far gone. We can still do great things with them. And so relish is what we're going to do. First, we cut them lengthwise and we scoop the seeds right out. Now, cucumbers, as you know, are soft and watery, and we don't want that in our final product. So, once we get them cut, once we get them seeded, the next thing that we want to do is we want to process them. So, what started as a basket of bulky cucumbers is now a pile of finely shredded, ready to brine produce. So, if you have a food processor, this makes it a whole lot easier. Once everything is grated and shredded and you've got it in the pot or the bowl that you want, you're ready to start making your brine. Now for us, the brines can be as complicated or as simple as you want them to be. We mix the cucumbers into the hot brine and we stir to coat everything. And trust me, the smell takes over the kitchen. It's a bright, tangy, and maybe even a little nostalgic. If you grew up around canning, this will definitely take you right back to your childhood. The concept behind the brine is you're going to notice that it's got a lot of vinegar, it's got a lot of water, and it's got a lot of salt in it. Everybody's brine is a little bit different. You make it the way that you want. For us, it's very similar to a pickle brine. The concept here is that we're going to be able to use this relish in a lot of other dishes. While we may not sit down and open up a can of relish and just start eating it with a spoon right out of the can, instead what we might do is we might find ourselves using it on hot dogs or hamburgers, or we might use it in potato salads, or we might use it in pasta salads. The options are limitless. Here we're going to can up that fantastic pickle relish. We use this on everything. Now you probably noticed that we're using pint-sized jars instead of quart-sized jars, And that's really for a few reasons: for ease of storage and for ease of use. Nobody in our home is going to eat a quart of pickle relish, even if you are making a big bowl of potato salad or deviled eggs or anything else that might call for relish. So in order to keep it small, to keep it easy to store, we put all of our relish and pickles and things like that, we do those in pint jars. Makes it a whole lot easier to move around the kitchen, to put on the shelf, to put in the refrigerator. Here we're making sure that our lids are going on, that the rims are clean, and you notice right here on the right side, we're getting ready to put these in the steam canner. Now, pickle relish does not have to be pressure canned. It can be water bathed, but we prefer the steam canner. The steam canner only uses 2 quarts of water. We're going to have this done processing in about 20 minutes, give or take. And once they're done, again, they go on the shelf. And not only are they nice to look at, but they're safe and they are shelf stable. And just like that, we've taken overgrown cucumbers and we've turned them into something that we'll actually use. And that's the heart of preserving, not letting anything go to waste. In your kitchen, I'm sure you have lots of rules. I'm sure you have lots of things that you like to see happen, but in our home, we hate it when things go to waste. Speaking of going to waste, look at these humongous zucchini. Now, zucchini is very prolific in the garden. If you've ever grown it, you already know that if you can't grow anything else, you can definitely grow zucchini. These guys have gotten away from us. They're a little bit big. Over the past 3 or 4 nights, we've had lots of rain, and so they hid under the big leaves, they soaked up all that moisture, and they are overgrown. So what can we do with zucchini? Well, what we're going to do here is we're actually going to cut them down into more bite-sized pieces, more manageable sized pieces, and then we are going to remove the seeds, we're going to run it through the food processor, and we're actually going to grate this zucchini. Yes, there are so many things you can do. Hey, Miss Amber, that zucchini is as big as you are, darling. Zucchini, if you've never tried it, can be turned into anything. Do you like apples, but you don't have apples? You can use zucchini. In fact, you could use zucchini to make a mock apple pie. You can use zucchini and you can turn it into pineapple. Zucchini is very versatile and it will take on the flavor profile of anything that you mix it with. So remember that. If you are overrun with zucchini, you can make fantastic desserts out of it, even if you don't have the exact ingredient that you're looking for, like apples or pineapple. The plan for the zucchini now is to grate it and then to portion it out into smaller zip top bags. And the reasoning for that is we want to put this right in the freezer. There are so many ways to preserve your produce. You can freeze it. You can freeze dry it, you can can it, you can do all sorts of things. We love to do all of those things, but for zucchini, we have found that it preserves best in the freezer. And so that's what we're going to do. We put it in small sandwich size bags, and then we put it directly into the freezer. To wrap up our video today, look at that squash. Squash is prolific. And everyone in our family, and especially in our neighborhood as well, loves squash. Now, one of the joys of growing a large garden is having the ability to share our bounty with our friends and our neighbors. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to end up with 5 or 6 bags of yellow crookneck squash, and we're going to give those to our friends and family around that maybe don't have squash, or maybe their squash didn't do well. I know my mom and dad, their squash plants did not do well this year. They had a lot of vine borer damage, and so we're going to give them some squash so that they'll have some as well. What's your favorite thing to do with squash? In our home, our favorite thing is to cut it into little discs and to fry it. Fried squash is our absolute favorite. But what about you? What are some of your favorite things to do with squash, especially when you have a harvest that is more than you can handle at one time? Our favorite thing to do is to give away as much as we can. It's great to sell produce, it's great to make $1, but it's more fun to give real food to hungry bellies that can actually make a difference. For us, we had squash coming out of our ears, so it just made sense to bag it up, take it to the people we love, and let's see if we can pass on the blessing.